Well, it's obviously very exciting. We've had some provincial experience before, but this is obviously grander and greater, and the challenges are certainly there, so we're going to start getting to work right away.
As a team, how do you address national unity? Is that one of the things broadly discussed today moving forward?
Well, as we all know, we're one Canada, and I think the Prime Minister has been a champion of advocating for one great, big, happy family and called Canada, and I think all Canadians are in.
There's separation talk in Alberta, some of that melting away in Saskatchewan. Just what do you make of this sentiment growing, especially after Carney won the term here?
Well, I think the Prime Minister's made a lot of fantastic moves in terms of reaching out and having a First Minister's Conference in Saskatchewan. I'm a Saskatchewan boy. I love, well, I should say older gentleman, but I love Canada. My father was a World War II vet. He was a very strong advocate for Canada. He had just Canada running through his veins. So I think overall, Canada will stay strong. Canada will be united and will be a powerful force worldwide in terms of the economy and so on and so forth. And our champion and our Prime Minister has been drilling that into our heads every day as an opportunity to tell Canada, let's stay solid.
One question on pipelines. Mr. Guilbeault just said a few hours ago that we might not need a new pipeline in Canada. Do you agree with him?
Well, first of all, if we look at the history of Prime Minister Harper, never delivered one pipeline. Our Prime Minister is now saying we're going to work with the provinces and they'll have the environmental authority to approve pipelines as we move forward. So he is reaching out to a lot of the provinces in the partnership mode, and I think it's an exciting time for our oil and gas sector here in the province.
Is there a contradiction between Minister Guilbeault and your Prime Minister?
No, there is not. We're all united on that front, and I think it's fantastic for the oil and gas sector. Don't forget, folks, we're third worldwide in terms of production of oil and gas. We want to build on that success. So clearly, I think Alberta and Saskatchewan have a great opportunity to build on their expertise in oil and gas and join the rest of Canada in strengthening our trade worldwide.
So you think there's a need for a new pipeline in Canada?
Wherever it warrants and wherever the province are advocating, I think the federal government wants to cooperate as much as they can.
So that's a yes.
Yeah, where's the washroom? I'm new in this place, so I'll be 1 minute.
Do you speak French?
En petit peu. But I'm going to learn.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. What did you discuss in your cabinet meeting?
It was great. It was my first cabinet meeting ever, so just getting a lay of the land and looking at future plans, summer plans, and plan to build Canada.
Okay, and I did want to ask you about Gaza. You had endorsed the Palestine Votes platform. You also did call Gaza a genocide during a mosque fundraising event. Do you hope to influence foreign policy now that you're at cabinet?
I hope to bring my constituents' voices to Ottawa. That's always my intention. When I'm at the cabinet table, I have government duties that are very, very important, and I've been given the opportunity of a lifetime to lead on the sport file for the country, and that's my focus when I'm at the cabinet table.
Qu'est-ce qui est ressorti pour vous dans cette réunion aujourd'hui? Quel est le message, vous pensez, là, qui est ressorti de cette réunion aujourd'hui?
Given that this is my first cabinet meeting, and then I know that what happens in there is meant to stay in there, and it will. But I'm going to stay focused on that work and getting settled as a Secretary of State.
How are the challenges national unity moving forward?
Prime Minister Carney's leadership to Prime Minister Trudeau's leadership?
I think it's early. I'm just like I said, just getting used to the role, and very, very excited at what's to come.
Parlementaire, nature. Ça veut dire quoi exactement? Qu'est-ce que c'est comme...
Le rôle des secrétaires parlementaires va être de...
Nature, qu'est-ce que ça signifie?
Là, vous avez deux questions.
D'accord, je vous écoute.
On va en prendre une, puis on va prendre l'autre
Ça
ensuite.
marche.
Secrétaire parlementaire, c'est des dossiers plutôt transversaux pour atteindre des objectifs très particuliers. Dans le cas de nature, ce sont les objectifs qui ont été identifiés dans la plateforme par le premier ministre. Donc, ça va prendre forme dans les prochaines semaines, mais on peut se référer à ce qui a été annoncé.
Mais on parle de parc,
on parle de parc, on parle de protection de l'eau, on parle de biodiversité. De manière concrète, ça va prendre forme dans les prochaines semaines. secrétaire d'État, c'est un lapsus, pardon,
Given
monsieur.
your background, is this at all about hunting, Madame Provost? Just given who you are and your advocacy on
I
guns.
worked in the last 10 years for the Environment Department in Quebec, so I'm very, very proud of this assignation.
Ça
Minister,
prend
do you
combien de temps créer un parc national?
Je vais l'apprendre, monsieur.
think there needs to be new pipelines in Canada?
Sorry?
New pipelines in Canada? Do you think that should happen?
It can happen. We have to think about many, many aspects. We have to think about energy. We have also to think about nature. So thank you very much.
I'll just. Where's the pool one? I'll do it. Non, je m'en vais pas, je suis là. So, as you've seen this morning, we've been listening to Canadians, and we've been delivering for Canadians. The first order of business of the first cabinet of the new government under Prime Minister Carney was to offer to Canadian a middle-class tax cut, a very significant step that will benefit 22 million Canadians across the nation, that will provide a family with two income up to $840 of benefits. This is very significant, and it sends a very strong and clear message to Canadians that we care, that we understand that one of the first concerns they have is about affordability, and we want to send a message that, yeah, there's a lot of things going on, but we'll be there for them. So that was the first order of business of this government. So ce matin, ce qu'on a annoncé, d'abord, la première chose que je dois dire, c'est qu'on a écouté les Canadiens et Canadiennes depuis les dernières semaines, depuis les derniers mois, et on agit pour les Canadiens et les Canadiennes. Ce que vous avez vu ce matin, le Premier ministre du Canada, M. Carney, a fait dans sa toute première mesure qu'il a adoptée, c'était une réduction d'impôts pour la classe moyenne, une réduction d'impôts importante qui va toucher 22 millions de Canadiens et Canadiennes à travers le pays. Cette mesure-là va donner aux familles avec deux revenus jusqu'à 840 $ de bénéfices. Donc, c'est important pour les familles à travers le pays. Et le message clair que ça envoie aux Canadiens, c'est qu'on va être là pour vous. On sait qu'il y a beaucoup de préoccupations pour les Canadiens et Canadiennes, mais l'une des toutes premières, évidemment, c'est la question de l'abordabilité. Donc, moi, je pense que c'est significatif que le premier geste posé par le gouvernement Carney dans la première réunion du Conseil des ministres, c'est d'être là pour la classe moyenne. Donc, ce matin, un geste important pour l'ensemble des Canadiens et Canadiennes.
Will you table a budget before summer?
So, what we have today is a middle-class tax cut. That's step one. Step two, you're going to have a throne speech which will outline the Canadian government priority, and there will be a fall economic statement to follow. So those are really the sequence that you're going to see. Tax cut for the middle class, we're going to be introducing a Ways and Means motions as we enter back into Parliament. We'll table legislation. Then there'll be a throne speech, and then we'll present a fall economic statement.
Are you going to work with opposition parties to get this passed? How are you going to get the votes to get this passed? Are you going to reach out to opposition parties and see if they'll...
Well, Canadians sent a very clear message that they want this Parliament to work for them. And the first measure that we're introducing is a middle-class tax cut. So we expect other parliamentarians to support, obviously, the government, because this is about Canadians. We are in a situation, a dire situation. We've been talking with Canadians for weeks and months during the campaign. They told us one thing. They want us to do bold things. They want us to do them quickly, and they want us to do things for them. So this is a way for all parliamentarians to show up and say, yes, we support Canadians at a time where they need a break. And this is the best way to make sure that, 22 million Canadians, that's about as many people who file tax return in this country, will benefit from this measure. So this is very, very important.
Pourquoi pas de budget avant l'été, Monsieur Champagne?
Ben, écoutez, je viens de vous répondre. C'est qu'il y a trois choses. D'abord, on va avoir...
pourquoi pas de budget?
Mais non, mais je viens de vous répondre à l'instant, puis je vais le répéter en français. La première chose qu'on fait, c'est la première mesure du gouvernement Carney, c'est une réduction d'impôt pour la classe moyenne. Donc, ça, on va faire ça. Première chose, c'est important. C'est la chose la plus importante parce qu'on va laisser de l'argent dans les poches des Canadiens et c'est l'engagement du Premier ministre du Canada et c'est la toute première mesure qu'on adopte. Deuxième chose qu'on va faire, il y aura un discours du trône qui va venir, qui va déjà présenter les priorités du gouvernement du Canada pour la prochaine législation. Et ensuite de ça, il y aura une mise à jour économique de l'automne qui va suivre. Donc, la séquence, elle est très claire, elle est très logique. Première chose, réduction d'impôts pour la classe moyenne. Deuxième chose, discours du trône. Troisième chose, on aura une mise à jour économique.
Pourquoi est-ce que vous renoncez à le faire avant l'été?
Ben, on renonce pas, on en fait un. Ce que je vous dis, c'est qu'il faut faire les choses dans l'ordre. Première chose, réduction d'impôts pour la classe moyenne. Deuxième chose, discours du... Et troisième chose, il faut avoir une mise à jour économique, ce qu'on va faire à l'automne. Ben, le raisonnement, c'est qu'il faut que les choses se fassent d'une façon logique. La première chose que vous faites, la première chose... Attendez, je vais juste finir ça. La première chose qu'on fait, c'est réduction d'impôts. Deuxième chose, discours du trône. Troisième chose, il y aura une mise à jour économique.
So the fiscal year has begun, Mr. Champagne. The fiscal year has already begun. When are you going to have a framework for the public finances for the year?
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Shouldn't there be one as soon as possible in the fiscal year? You're going to leave it to the second half?
That's what I'm saying. So let's take it step by step. Canadians understand that.
I think we heard the steps.
No, but it's not very complicated. But why? Because it needs to go in a... Well, I would say because you need to go in a sequence that is logical. The first thing you do is the first step of this government is a middle-class tax cut. That's the first thing. You start with that. Then you say, well, you need to have a throne speech to say what are the priorities of the government. And once you've done that, then you do an economic statement, which is going to be the fall economic statement. So this is the logical piece.
Year at this point, right?
We're just going to go fall is fall, you know. I could not be clearer than that. Fall is fall. So fall 2025.
Last year fall was December. Last year fall was December. It could be nearly a year.
We're, you know, you will see with this government, and you've seen it with this Prime Minister, we're very clear. You know, that's why we say this morning there's 3 steps. It's very clearly outlined. And I would say Canadians have seen the priorities that we have outlined during the campaign. Priorities are not going to be different. You know, we provided a frame during the campaign. We said, you know, we need to fight for Canadians, so we're going to be there to protect Canadians and industry with respect to U.S. tariff. We're going to protect workers in industry, and we're going to build this country. So the frame remains the same, and in the building of the country, we need to invest in defense.
Is that why no budget?
We invest in infrastructure, and we're going to invest in housing.
Comment voyez-vous votre collaboration avec Mark Carney? Est-ce qu'il vous a donné des indications claires ou vous avez le plein jeu?
Ben, écoutez, on travaille en complémentarité. Il y a toujours, vous savez, dans le système parlementaire, toujours une interaction proche entre le Premier ministre et le ministre des Finances. Ce que je viens de vous expliquer, c'est exactement ce qu'on a discuté avec le Premier ministre, c'est-à-dire il y a 3 séquences claires, c'est-à-dire premier point ce matin qui est important. Faut pas, on parle de la première mesure qui touche 22 millions de Canadiens.
C'est lui qui vous a donné
discours
la
du
séquence.
trône. Et ensuite de ça, on parle d'une mise à jour économique qui va suivre.
On fait toujours ça en collaboration. Sorry. How concerned are you about Honda?
Well, listen, I'm always concerned when I see investments that would be delayed. But on the other end, as Premier Ford has said, in our interaction with the leadership of Honda in Japan, they are very committed to Canada. They are very committed to the project. They understand that, you know, what you're seeing now, which is not unique to Canada, it's about in every market, there's change of technology that is happening in terms of the battery. The battery cost needs to go lower, so you can bring the cost of vehicles lower. You have adoption by consumer, which is delayed by, I would say, which we see a delay in adoption. There's more capacity than demand at this stage. But the North Star about having an electric vehicle remains, and that's why I'm very confident. You know, you have to see when you change technology after 100 years, we should not be surprised that you see change in technology and change in adoption by consumers. But I remain very confident, as the experts in the field would say, that the North Star is towards electrification.
I just want to ask you, so, as Minister of Justice, so on bail reform and on crime in general, it seems to be like a top priority for this government. Can you tell me what you're looking to do on that?
Well, look, you got to ground yourself in the experience of Canadians if you're going to have success in politics, and we want to make sure that we're creating a culture where Canadians feel safe in their communities. There's obviously been a focus through the campaign, and if you look at the platform, some very serious commitments around bail reform. But in addition to the concrete policies that we're putting in place, we're developing a system that's designed to advance the work. It's not a coincidence that we have not just myself in the Justice portfolio and Minister Hernandez-Sangri in public safety, but also with Ruby Sahota having unique responsibilities focused on combating crime. So from a systemic point of view, from a policy point of view, and from a point of view that factors in the experience of Canadians, we're committed to creating a culture where Canadians feel safe in their communities.
Are you looking at all at repealing some? There was a couple laws that your government made under Justin Trudeau that the Conservatives have attacked quite a bit, like Bill C5, C75. Are you looking at all at repealing anything, or are you just going to implement?
So the agenda was laid out in the campaign platform, but I find that curious because some of the criticisms on one of the bills you mentioned, for example, actually makes it more difficult for offenders of certain types of crime to actually achieve bail. So before we have conversations about repealing acts that actually strengthen the bail system to ensure violent perpetrators face the incarceration that they rightly deserve when the courts find it appropriate. I find it very weird, frankly, that the Conservatives would be championing the repeal of legislation that actually strengthened the bail system. So the details actually matter here. I think it's easy for politicians of varying partisan stripe to throw out bill numbers, but I think it would be helpful if they've actually read the legislation, considered its impact, before they start suggesting measures that actually achieve the outcome that they say they want, despite the fact that they voted against them. So I think the details are important. We're going to dig in and do the work. But in terms of the specific agenda that we're looking at, it's exactly what we've campaigned on in the recent federal election.
There's been some analysis throughout the campaign that, or after the campaign, that crime was one of the issues that denied the Liberals a majority in ridings like the 905, Brampton, Markham, things like that, where the Conservatives overperformed. That crime was a big issue in those ridings. Do you agree with that assessment? Do you think that this is something that you need to take more seriously, as you're expressing right now?
Well, sorry to interrupt. So look, crime is obviously something that we need to take very seriously. My experience through this campaign and chatting with colleagues from different parts of the country, it was one of a series of issues, but let's not pretend it was the only issue. Obviously, there was an enormous focus on the relationship with the United States and standing up to President Trump's tariffs that have the potential to do untold damage to the Canadian economy, making sure that we're building one Canadian economy and creating good jobs for people who live here at the same time that we reduce the cost of living through tax cuts, for example, just as Prime Minister Carney has enacted in the recent cabinet meeting here. So we have work to do on crime, but it is not the only issue that I think voters in any region of Canada voted on, but that's not to diminish its importance. People need to feel safe in their community if they're going to feel they have a successful and rewarding life, and part of the puzzle that we're seeking to put together going forward is advancing the kind of reforms that will create that feeling of safety for Canadians in communities in every region of the country. Okay, thanks very much. Yeah, and a pleasure. Yeah, thanks.
Mr. Solomon, what's your job in a few words?
It's digital economy, Horsley.
So what does that mean?
Well, we're getting to it, but it's what we said in the agenda. Big innovation, big change coming on the digital economy.